Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and as y'all can see with the video I had to put out earlier, I've been out all day and literally had to get home early enough for the Commanders Kings live stream. First of all, make sure you go check that out. And now I'm here to dive into all of the players that we've recently signed. Don't worry, the Javon Kinlaw video is still in the chamber. I even have a deeper dive into Laramie Tunsil and why he's a better trade than you even originally thought, than even I originally thought when I first did my breakdown of him. And I also have a video and all of my notes ready to break down the fact that we re-signed Jeremy McNichols and Tressway as well. All of that, I promise you, is on the way. And I have a mock draft I want to do. I'm working on all of these things, but first I want to get you these 3 videos of the 3 guys that we signed earlier today. Well, by the time y'all are getting this, technically yesterday, and we're starting today, well, with this video right now, with defensive lineman Deatrich Wise. And we're here to dive into why he may at least probably be better than PAYNE. Is he potentially a free agency still? Is he a starter, or is he just a depth piece? We're going to dive into all of it and more. You know, I have my advanced stats. I've taken some time to watch a little bit of tape on them as well. Looked at some highlights and things like that before I started recording this video. And now it's time to dive into it. And before we get into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned and be on the lookout for everything I'm putting out on this channel, man. Again, we're not skipping anything. You know, sometimes more recent news comes out and then I'll just go ahead and do a video on that. But that doesn't mean we're going to double back. We're not going to double back and go talk about things that happened earlier again, like Tressway and Jeremy McNichols re-signing, the Javon Kinlaw signing. I still haven't talked about that yet in the video, but I'm really taking my time with that one because I really want to put it into the best wordage and bring the best stats and film that I can to present to you why you should actually be more excited about that signing than you are. But instead of wasting even more of y'all time, let's go ahead and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. Alright, so the Commanders have officially signed defensive lineman Deatrich Wise to a 1-year contract. He typically plays edge rusher, but he could also play some defensive tackle. There's the versatility, and that's why we're referring to him as defensive line. That's why a lot of people, when they tweet about him, even Adam Schefter, when Ben Standig talked about him, like everybody says defensive lineman, not tackle, not edge rusher. This is a guy with some versatility that can play whatever you need at the time, that any given snap. If you have a weakness at tackle, you can play him at defensive tackle. If you have a weakness at edge, he can play some edge rusher for you. But Adam Schefter officially tweeted, this is the original source, free agent defensive lineman Deatrich Wise agreed to a 1-year deal worth up to $5 million with the Commanders, which means his cap hit will probably only be like $1, $2, maybe $3 million against the cap. So nothing really noteworthy cap space wise. It's not even really worth it to do a cap space update just yet. So I also want to, and I'm emphasizing that because, like, if you want to trade for Trey Hendrickson, if that's something you still want to do, you're in that crowd of people. I'm still kind of in the middle. It just depends on how much Trey Hendrickson is asking for after we trade for him on a per year basis and how much the Bengals are asking for in the draft pick. But if we can make it happen and it's reasonable, I'm super down. And like a signing of a guy like Deatrich Wise does not stop you from pursuing a Trey Hendrickson. You still have the money to get him. You still have the draft picks you need to go get him if you feel like it's smart to give up whatever the Bengals are potentially asking for. This does not stop that. But this is also a second longtime Patriot that we signed earlier today, technically yesterday by the time y'all are watching this, because we also signed cornerback Jonathan Jones, which I got to go back and talk about as well. But Deatrich Wise is 31 years old, and he has 34 career sacks. He's 6'5", 280 pounds, mostly plays defensive end, but you can play him at defensive tackle, because remember, Jonathan Allen played defensive tackle his entire career for the Commanders at 280 pounds, but this guy technically plays a little bit more edge than he does defensive tackle. Again, he has 34 career sacks, and that's in 8 seasons with the New England Patriots. He was drafted in the 4th round of the 2017 draft by the New England Patriots, and he spent his entire career with New England, and of course he has a Super Bowl ring with them as well. And his career has basically been free of any major injuries. Like, this is a guy that's coming in with like a super floor. He's versatile. He could play defensive tackle, edge rusher, whichever one you need. Maybe not to like a super high level. I'm not trying to sell you on the fact that this guy is a Pro Bowler, but he comes with a certain floor. If you're going to expect him to be a certain level of productive, he's going to be available. You don't have to worry about him being injury prone or anything like that. Like, remember Cleveland Farrell last season where he just could not stay healthy, and it started all the way back in the offseason? That's not something you have to worry about with Deatrich Wise. He comes in and you know exactly what you're getting at the very minimum, and maybe he'll be better than that. But his father played professional football, and his younger brother, Daniel Wise, played defensive end for the Burgundy and Gold back in 2021 and 2022. So if you remember the name Daniel Wise, that's because he was on the Burgundy and Gold roster back then. And I said defensive end. I'm not exactly sure if it was defensive end, but he definitely was on the command. His brother was on the Commanders at one point in time. And then I do want to point out the fact that with like the whole Patriots thing as well, going back to the relationship Jonathan Jones, like Deatrich Wise played 8 seasons in New England. Jonathan Jones, who I'm going to talk about probably in my very next video, played 9 seasons in New England. Both now have left as free agents to sign with Washington on not only in the same offseason, but the same day, which is pretty interesting. And if you go look at his highlights, you're more than likely going to find that time that he got a one-arm sack against the Carolina Panthers. And I believe that was literally just last year. And shouts out to my boy Disco over there, because he said he looked like Andre Carter in that highlight. I mean, hey, go look at this highlights, man. I'm telling you right now, and some of the clips that people are uploading like throughout Twitter and things like that. Again, I'm not trying to sell you on the fact that he's like some Pro Bowler or anything like that, but you are going to be very happy that he's a part of our rotation. You know, as a starter, but as a rotational piece, he's great depth. Like really, really good depth. As a guy coming off the bench and it's going to only play sparingly, you could do way worse. And Deatrich Wise didn't test well at the combine, but he's a really consistent and productive player. Even since he was in college, he's always been very dependable. There's again a certain floor with him. That's been his whole career. And he literally only went as late as he did in the draft when he came out 4th round, because he tested so poorly at the combine. But people kind of overthought it and let the Patriots get a good player later in the draft than they should have been able to. He was not a 4th round talent. He was definitely better than that. Again, people just overthought his combine results. And taking a look at his Pro Football Focus grades, as recently as last year, he was a 59.7 overall grade, about average. The year before that, he was a 54.3, but going back to 2022, he was a 74.9 in the season that he played the most snaps he's ever played in his entire career. Like, he played 828 snaps that year, and the second most he's ever played in a season was the year after that in 2023 when he played 615. So for some reason, 2022, New England allowed him to play more, and he played better. That was his highest Pro Football Focus overall grade of any season of his career. So, is there any way that we could get 2022 Deatrich Wise here in Washington? That would be fantastic. And I feel like that's the vision that this franchise has, and that's the plan they have in store for him. That's the reason that they signed him. I feel like the vision is that he will at least be an upgrade over Cleveland Farrell from last year, and you could never be mad at that. You could never be mad when you upgraded anything. It's not like a huge upgrade like we're going from Cleveland Farrell to Trey Hendrickson, but Deatrich Wise is definitely better than Cleveland Farrell, at the very least healthier. But even just ignoring health, he's been better even when Cleveland Farrell has been available on the field for his previous teams and with us last year. Deatrich Wise has been the better player. I mean, he may not necessarily be like a double-digit sack guy, but he gonna get you 5 now. Like, and most importantly, he can set the edge and stop the run, which was arguably our biggest weakness on the entire team last season. Stopping the run on the outside. That was like, I mean, if you had to, like, I keep saying this in several videos for the past few weeks, months, honestly, that like if you had to break our team down and put it in order of like what we need the most, and I'm not talking about position groups. I'm not talking about running back, wide receiver, edge rusher, things like that. I'm talking about very specific things. I would throw home run hitting running back in there. Before we started signing and trading for guys, I would have said like a wide receiver to Terry McLaurin especially. I would have definitely have said, and I would argue number 1 was a run stopping edge setting edge rusher. That was arguably our biggest specific need, and Deatrich Wise at the very least can do that for you. And going back to DARON Payne, because this guy, Deatrich Wise, as recently as 2022, hit arguably his best season according to Pro Football Focus, and that was the season that he had the most sacks, but it's also the season that he played the most snaps by far, so that kind of comes with it. I'm not just gonna be like, oh, 2022, most sacks, and just leave it at that. We need the context of the fact that he also played way more snaps that season, so I mean, I'm not gonna take away what he did, but at the same time, more snaps, you would naturally lead to more sacks. But at the same time, 2022, he had 7.5 sacks. 2023, he had 4.5s. And 2024, he had 5. Like, within the past 3 years, on average, he's at least going to get you like 5-6 sacks, basically. And hey, man, that's about the same production we've been getting from DARON Payne the past couple of years. I mean, literally in the past 2 years, Deatrich Wise has 1.5 more sacks total than DARON Payne has had over the past 2 seasons total. 9.5 from Deatrich Wise compared to DARON Payne's 8. And while Deatrich Wise is only costing us at most $5 million against the cap in 2025, DARON Payne is costing us $26 million against the cap in 2025, which is, by the way, the most expensive player we have on our entire roster team. More than Laramie Tunsil, more than Terry McLaurin, and of course, way more than Jaden Daniels, who's still on a rookie contract, might I add. So, Deatrich Wise, basically the same player that we've been getting out of DARON Payne for the past couple of years, but more of like an edge rusher, but he can play some defensive tackle, and if anything has been even slightly more productive, I will take it. And shouts out to Ryan Fowler, because he pointed out the fact that Javon Kinlaw's 215, Eddie Goldman, who I'm going to talk about in a couple of videos, is 320, and Deatrich Wise is 280. He said the focus for Adam Peters is obvious: improve the trenches versus the run. This is what I've been screaming about. 915 pounds have been added up front to bolster this defensive line between just 3 players. And Kinlaw and Wise will also offer some alignment versatility to where they can play some defensive tackle, they can play some edge, while Goldman is a traditional 0-1 tech nose tackle, who again we'll talk about in a couple of videos, because I'm really excited about Goldman. I feel like he has the higher ceiling between the 2 players that we're talking about, between Deatrich Wise, who we're talking about in this video, and again Eddie Goldman, who I'm going to talk about in a couple of videos. You could argue maybe Eddie Goldman has the higher ceiling, but Deatrich Wise definitely has the higher floor. And I see people saying out there that like we're out here signing unks. You know what I'm saying? We're signing a bunch of guys in their young 30s, like lower 30s and things like that. But I think the vision is we bring in all of these older veteran guys to be like the floor, and then you draft your starters, bring in young guys to be your ceiling. And then now you have a good floor with your backups and your depth with the veterans. So if the draft picks are ready to start over these veterans as soon as they come in, like we draft them and they're in April and they're ready to start September, then you know they really earned it. We didn't just hand it to them, because I feel like these veteran signings, again, with the floor that they bring, they make sure we have no holes on the roster. Like, of course, we still want upgrades at a lot of positions. I don't feel like we should be done at any particular position right now except for quarterback, but we don't have any dramatic gaping holes and weaknesses anywhere on this roster at this point. And you need that type of team building, especially when you're ready to win now with an elite quarterback. So all of these veteran guys that we've been signing, especially the ones that we signed technically yesterday, as in March 12th, Wednesday, those are like the floor. We know exactly where we're getting. They're going to be at the very least available, durable, and at least somewhat productive. I'm not expecting Pro Bowl years out of any of these guys, but at the very least, they're better than what we had last year in a lot of ways, because Deatrich Wise is definitely better than Cleveland Farrell. I would definitely argue that Eddie Goldman could potentially be more productive than at least at stopping the run wise, better than anybody we had last season on the defensive line. So we've gotten better. Yes, they're a little older, but they come with a certain floor. And again, this just makes us killing it in the draft even more critical. But at the same time, again, if we get to September and we have any of the draft picks that we just took in this upcoming draft in April starting, then you know those guys are the truth. Because it's not like we just drafted those guys to fill a hole. That means we drafted those guys to potentially raise the ceiling of that particular position. So I think these signings are pretty solid. Of course, they're not the super flashy names or anything like that, but I think this is a smart and mature way to build your team, especially when you're trying to win now. You're trying to win a Super Bowl this year. While you have your quarterback playing at a top 5 quarterback level on a rookie contract, you need to get rid of as many holes as possible. You need to make sure you have a certain floor there to where Jaden Daniels and like elite players that like we just traded for Larry Tunsil, I think Deebo Samuel can contribute as like an elite player. Like when you're talking about star-studded players that other teams are jealous of us having, I would say like Deebo Samuel has the potential to be that. I'm confident Terry, Jaden Daniels, and Larry Tunsil will be that. We'll see who else is like that on the team. You know, Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, maybe you could throw them in that conversation as well. And then the rest of the roster are just guys that we know are going to, at the very least, do their job. And again, I really want to emphasize, be available. Your best ability is your availability, man. And all of these guys come in with good injury histories, good health histories. I'm happy about that. And then shouts out to Nikki Javala, though. She did point out the fact that the average age of the 16 players that the Commanders are known to have acquired so far this month, trades and free agency, including re-signings, is 30 years old. But shouts out to Commanders Realm, he brings up a good point. It's ugly at first glance until you remember that the best player on the team at the most important position is 24 years old on a rookie deal going into his second career season. So I'm not too worried about it at all. We can build through the draft to get that young core, but right now you're making sure you have no holes on the roster with some veterans. I mean, you're limited in cap space. There's a reason there is a cap space situation anyway. You can't have all of the great players, man. No team does. I mean, shouts out to the Eagles, man, because I'm pretty sure their fans were complaining about signing Zach Bond last year. And you see how that turned out with him being an all-pro. I'm not saying either of these guys will be that, but I'm just letting you know that not every signing is going to be a flashy signing. Some guys are going to play better than what their contracts indicate. We're going to get great value out of these guys, and that is how you not only win now, that's also how you build a winning, sustaining team that can win long-term as well. And it also shouts out to Commanders Realm because he said, I have no issue with stacking the back end of the roster with veteran Bill Belichick guys. I don't really think you can go wrong with that either. And then shouts out to Walter Football because he gave this signing a B grade. He said this is the second 30-something former New England Patriot player that the Redskins just signed today, as Deatrich will join Jonathan Jones in Washington. The Redskins will need as many pass rushers as possible to combat Jalen Hurts in 2 divisional matchups and a potential 3rd playoff contest. Deatrich Wise used to be strong at rushing the passer, but things have changed since he's turned 30. Wise is no longer the player he once was, though he's still a viable rotational piece. There's a chance he could have one more decent season, and this is a cheap price that makes it so this signing can't be graded poorly. I mean, he used to have a slightly better pass rush prowess, but at this point, I think his best pass rush days are behind him. But when it comes to stopping the run and setting the edge, he is better than Dante Fowler at that. He's better than what Dorrance Armstrong was last year at that. He's better than what Cleveland Farrell was at that, especially more available than Cleveland Farrell. So at the very least, if one thing about it, we got better at stopping the run with this signing and a couple of the signings that we've made so far this offseason. Now, speaking of Dante Fowler, we still need to bring Dante Fowler back. Don't get me wrong, especially if you're not trading for Trey Hendrickson. Like, look at this roster. Who's getting to the quarterback when we need it in clutch times? Like, I trust when our offense has the ball last, we're going to win the game. Jaden Daniels has the ball in his hands to win the game. I trust that. Our defense on the field last, I'm nervous right now. Now, granted, we are way better at stopping the run already just from the moves we've made so far this offseason. But we have gotten, if anything, worse at rushing the passer. Dorrance Armstrong has flashes, but we have just lost, well, we at least haven't brought back Dante Fowler, who was our best pass rusher last year, who had 10.5 sacks. So right now, in moments where we just need somebody to please make a game-changing play, who's about to go get that game-winning strip sack on this roster? We don't have that guy yet. So bring back Dante Fowler. Maybe, hopefully, we can somehow get a draft pick to fall to us. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I honestly, if I had to choose between the two, pick your poison. I'd prefer to be a team that struggles at getting after the quarterback than a team that consistently struggles at stopping the run like we did last year. Death by 1,000 cuts is the worst way to go out. For me personally, that's just me. Plus, running the ball is far less mistake prone than passing the ball. If you can run the ball for 5 or more yards every time you run it, why would you stop running it? Not being able to stop the run is like a more automatic and consistent bad result for the defense. The other team is going to score, but not being able to get to the quarterback is a more volatile result for the offense and the opposing defense, where sometimes you may get away with it, sometimes you may not. But if you can't stop the run, that's it. You're cooked. You're not stopping anything. Your offense is never going to get the ball back. The ball will never be in Jaden Daniels' hands. We will lose time of possession. So I prefer, of course, ideally we can fix both, and there's still a chance we could. Maybe we bring Dante Fowler back as a situational pass rusher. Maybe we trade for Trey Hendrickson. Maybe somehow some freakish edge rusher talent falls to us 29th overall in the draft somehow due to all of the red flags that a lot of elite talents do have in this draft. I'm not saying that it's likely, but it's also not impossible. Maybe we can solve it that way. But I would prefer to be able to truly be a dominant run stopping team than a team that can always get to the quarterback. Last year, we got to the quarterback quite a bit. Dante Fowler had like 10.5 sacks. Frankie Louisville had like 8. And then we had a couple of more guys that had like 5, 6, 4, and things like that. Like, we were technically one of the better pass rushing teams in the NFL. And where did that get us? Saquon Barkley, touchdown run, first time he touches the ball in the NFC Championship, and we can't stop them to the point that they go out there and throw out a running back I've never heard of, and he even scored a touchdown against us. Stopping the run was by far, I feel like, our biggest weakness out of the entire team last year. If you throw in offense, defense, special teams, us stopping the run was the thing we were worse at than any other team in the NFL. At the very least, we're really good at that. I wouldn't even say we're decent. We're really good at stopping the run with who we currently have. We just got to figure out the pass rush after that. And hey, I know that's easier said than done, but hey, man, I prefer to be good at stopping the run than and bad at getting after the quarterback, especially as long as you have some good coverage on the back end. I think we're going to have some pretty good coverage. I feel like we're going to be pretty creative with our blitz packages with Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louisville. I feel like they were elite at that. I feel like we can figure out ways around that. You can't figure out anything. There's no strategy for not having the right guys to stop in the run. You can strategically manufacture pressure with certain blitz packages, confusing the quarterback, blitzing defensive backs, blitzing the linebackers like we love to do, things like that. You can figure it out on the fly with coaching when it comes to getting after the quarterback. Sometimes it may not work all of the time, but at least some of the time. There is no coach in football history that can figure out how to stop the run if you don't have the right guys to do it. So, because, hey, stack the box with 8, 9 guys if you want to. Now anybody can throw the ball against you. Now even the Colts quarterback room with Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson is out here throwing the ball against you. So I'll take what we got is my main point. It's not the best case scenario, but it's better than what we had last year. I can tell you that. Just watch. Also, shouts out to @Washington today. He brings up a good point. He said, hopefully all these defensive line signings don't prevent them from grabbing one of these talented rookies in the draft if a guy is there, and we'll see. Maybe one of those really talented edge rushers do make it to 29th. Again, like I've already explained in several videos, Michael Williams, Georgia Bulldog, you know what I'm saying? You know I'm caping for that. You know, injury concerns, production concerns due to, you know, this mysterious injury that wasn't reported on until after the combine. Jalen Walker seen as a tweener. You know, you have the fact that he's injured right now. Production concerns as far as like anytime Georgia played anybody outside of Texas, he wasn't putting up ridiculous numbers. But at the same time, when it's high level of competition, that's when he played his best. But there's still concerns there. Maybe he'll fall because of that. James Pierce, serious off-field concerns. Maybe he falls for some crazy reason. Shamar Stewart, I mean, like the biggest production red flag I've ever seen of a really talented edge rusher coming out of the draft. Literally exactly 0.5 sacks all 3 seasons these had for him coming out of college. Like, how can you not at least get 1 sack on your own all season and you're that much of a freak athlete? Maybe he falls to us and maybe we can develop him into an elite pass rusher. Like one of those guys. Mike Green, lack of competition. There are going to be concerns with that. Maybe he falls to 29. I'm hoping that at 29 we can get that pass rusher there, or maybe there's the option that we still trade for Trey Hendrickson. But at the very least, I know this team has several guys that are better at stopping the run than what we had last year, and I can sleep well at night at least knowing that as a floor. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Again, I'm gonna keep y'all updated on everything, every little thing the Burgundy and Gold do, man. Every little signing. Again, even the Tressway and Jeremy McNichol signing, we're gonna dive into that because I want to do a deep dive into whether they think we're done done at the running back position. Now that we technically have 4 running backs with Jeremy McNichols, Chris Rodriguez, Brian Robinson, and Austin Eckler, do you think that cancels out the chances of us drafting a running back? Who are the best free agent running backs that are still available? I want to like dive into stuff like that when we get to that video. So all of that stuff is on the way. I just got to knock some of the things that I deem is the most important first. And then the Javon Kinlaw video, I cannot wait to do that because that's going to have some film session work behind it. I may not necessarily show it on the screen, but trust and believe, I've watched more all-22 tape on Javon Kinlaw than anybody else that we've signed or traded for so far this offseason. Trust me, when I do that Javon Kinlaw breakdown, it will be worth the wait. That's on the way as well. So, but most importantly though, please make sure you don't leave this video without leaving a like. And of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about this Deatrich signing. Do you agree that even like my philosophy of where you prefer to be able to stop the run than get after the quarterback? How do y'all feel about that debate topic? Let me know how I feel about everything we discussed in this video. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Why not? All of that type of stuff, man. And I appreciate y'all. Again, leave a like on the way out. Catch y'all later. I'm out.